many of you, not all of you, but soon I will hopefully know all of you. Since 1986, I've had the privilege of being the president of the World Business Academy. It's been a long and interesting run. For those of you who are wondering why this is only our second annual fundraiser, I'll meet you in the hall after the show. Before I get started, though, I have to tell you that I've had a lot of really wonderful partners. Some of the people in this room know about the 100-plus fellows like Deepak and the members like Jigar Shah and the people who have been really supporters of the Academy. But the one constant and true supporter for all those years from 1986 is my business and life partner. I'd like you to meet my wife. Wow. None of us would be here without her, particularly me. So, there's an interesting book that just came out called The Intelligent Optimist's Guide to Life, published by Urian Kamp. Urian, are you in the room? Oh, he didn't make it. Okay, so there are a number of us who provided endorsements for this book. I was one of them. And here's the quote that Urian chose to use of mine, which I want to give you because we just talked about climate change. You heard Deepak say, and that was filmed 3 weeks ago, that he is now believes, and this is an actual quote, I can show it to you online at the Commonwealth Club in San Francisco, where he and I did a panel a couple of weeks ago. We are now looking at the inevitability, not the possibility, the inevitability of mass human extinction. Let that sink in. Mass human extinction doesn't mean we're going to lose a few 100 million people more or less here and there. Mass human extinction means 5 to 6 and perhaps 7 billion people. It includes all of your children, all of the grandchildren you would or did or could have had. These are not alarmist numbers, these are real. We're more than happy to show you the math behind them, and we'll show you how you get there. And the tragedy is, although the IPCC just recognized for the first time a month ago that the Academy's position on this, which we've had for 10 years, they endorsed it by saying that if we don't solve it, there will be no human civilization by the year 2100. Came up 4 weeks ago. We've told them for years that number is actually 2065. And it doesn't go from 0 to 2065 like it falls over a cliff. You saw Superstorm Sandy. What many of you probably didn't realize is the polar vortex, which affected over 42 of the contiguous states in the mainland of the United States. The polar vortex was hit because of a storm that hit the coast of Alaska so hard it dislodged the jet stream, and we're still a month from winter. People experienced 30 degrees below zero, and even places like Minneapolis, that's unusual, particularly a month before winter. That storm was not even a detectable threat 6 days earlier. In 6 days, it went from something in the tropical depression to a superstorm like Sandy that, but for the fact it hit Alaska with 50-foot waves where no one was living on the Aleutian chain, would have been another Sandy. So Sandy's already happened a second time. The third one's just around the corner. But I started by telling you about Urian's little book. Urian is the publisher of Ode, also the Daily Optimist, which is a wonderful thing you can get as an app on your phone. And here's what I wrote in the front of that book that Urian decided to use. There's no problem in this world without a potential solution. What's too often lacking is the strategy to find these new solutions. That strategy is optimism. The desire to find the solution wherever it might be. It's the vital force for innovation in business and society. So, no problem, including climate change, is beyond our capacity to solve. What we have to ask ourselves is how much pain are we willing to sustain before we choose to solve it? Another question would be, are we willing to wake up before it is too late? And we at the Academy have overwhelming evidence we can share with you that we've already passed the tipping point, which means if the world was to go to zero carbon dioxide emissions tomorrow morning, literally to zero, which no one's anticipating, and we will emit more CO2 tomorrow than we did today, you can count on it. If you went to zero tomorrow morning, it's already too late because of the methane releases. Like a show of hands, how many of you are aware of how much methane is gurgling out of the ocean these days? Did people out there know that? Okay, some of you did. Of those with your hands that just went up, are you aware that a 2,000-mile rift opened on the Atlantic seaboard about 4 months ago? Some of you are. So people who don't know that don't realize what the impact of methane release is, which upon initial release is 60 times more heating of the atmosphere than carbon dioxide. So I was inspired when I was thinking about this little talk today to quote my dear friend Ian Watson, who I met many years ago in the World Business Academy. He lives in London. And he asked me at one point, why are you so committed? And I said, well, I'm not sure there's another choice. If you knew what I know, you'd have to be committed. And he thought about that and he wrote me a little note. And he said, Rinaldo, I want to share this with you. Here's what I think about commitment, yours and everybody else's. He wrote, commitment is not easy. It is making the time when there is none, finding resources when there seem to be none. It is overcoming what appear to be impossible obstacles. It is the daily triumph of integrity over skepticism. It is the coming through time after time, year after year after year. Commitment is choosing to be effective and about saying, I will find a way to make this happen. It is about being out there, exposed, vulnerable, even subject to ridicule because intensity, something I'm often accused of, is often considered bad form. Commitment also has its rewards. It is feeling good about yourself because you know you are being true to yourself and your word. It is what brings light to our faces and to our lives. So what today's lunch is about for me is an opportunity to ask you to join in creating the solutions and to share that level of commitment. I'm really humbly asking each and every one of you for your support, frankly, for support for people we don't know yet and haven't entered this room. It's going to take a lot of us, a whole lot of us, to make the changes that we absolutely must make for my children, my grandchildren, and frankly, for anybody who's under the age of 45. So we've got to do this now, and we're really out of time. And when I say that I'm humbly asking you for your support, I really mean that because I've gotten this as far as I can go as one guy. And when we started doing these luncheons last year, we said, look, if the city of Santa Barbara will support this and other people around the country, we can get this done. We can get San Onofre closed, we can get $1.5 billion back, we can test the sand at Fukushima. By the way, sad footnote, Fukushima continues to this day. You know, that reaction never stopped. It's going on every day. Hundreds of millions of gallons of contaminated water hitting the ocean every day for Fukushima. And the first absolutely traceable cesium deposits have been found in the state of Washington with the unique signature of Fukushima. So we know our sand is next. So, bad news, good news? The good news is, as Walter Cronkite observed, I never had an ambition to do something personally. I had the ambition to actually be and do everything. So the goal for us today is simply this. We want us to think globally, but we want to act globally. We want you to know that in your program guide, we put this little thing about Santa Barbara as the Athens in the time of Pericles, the Golden Age. We did that for a reason. We did that because we believe that Santa Barbara is capable of becoming a city-state where its citizens can actually create the solutions here that not only work for Santa Barbara, but work around the world. I'm going to make one other observation. Many of you did not know this. I didn't know it until a couple of weeks ago. Santa Barbara is hanging by a thread electrically, and in a report issued in 2012 by Southern California Edison, it predicted some of the brownouts that we just had, and that we would, in the case of a bad firestorm or of a flash flood, perhaps lose power for as much as 5 weeks. I had the good fortune, I want to thank the mayor for coming here. I had the good fortune to speak with her about this last week, and to be able to say, thank you very, very much for knowing about this report. How can we help to make Santa Barbara a place where the lights don't go out? That's called resilience. So, in conclusion, I want to say that Archimedes was right, the ancient Greek philosopher. We are the people, now is the time. And what he said was, if you give me a place to stand, a fulcrum, and a long enough lever, I can move the planet. He meant we could move the planet. Or as Arthur Ashe said so brilliantly, the great tennis player and social activist, from what we get, we make a living. What we give, however, makes a life. Thanks for living for your lives.
Now the fun part. First of all, I want to thank you all for listening to that speech. It's one of the things that got me when Rinaldo told it to me and brought me home to the reality, fully engaged in this. And I feel it's an honor to spend 100% of my effort working on this cause. And there are beautiful, amazingly supportive people coming out and supporting this effort. And I want to tell you about one of them right before I introduce Barbara. We got a gift of a challenge donation that we're going to try to match today of $50,000. The first $50,000 we raise today from an anonymous donor will be matched to support this effort. Dollar for dollar, it will double your pledge. And I'm just so honored to have that from our anonymous donor. And you know who you are, so thank you. Next, I'd like to welcome Barbara Gahn-Mueller to the stage, the president of the UN Assembly here at UN, sorry. Come here.
Actually makes it easy for me to tell us that we already have $50,000. I'm looking out here at some of the elected officials. If you're an elected official, would you stand up so we can thank you? Mayor, I always feel so honored because you work so hard, and I don't know if we thank you enough. And so I've been a fan of the World Business Academy for many years, and in 2005, they gave my late husband, Dr. Robert Mueller, then the award called. Let me just tell you exactly what the award was, because when I saw that he got the Humanitarian Award, I realized they're just not here to ask you for your money. They're here to follow through. I always look at people who ask me for money and I say, where's my money really going? I look at the end result. If I gave you this vote, and remember, every dollar is a vote. If I give you this vote, where is that going to go? So when I looked at the World Business Academy and they gave Robert the Humanitarian Award, I thought, okay, what can I do to help them? What can I be for them? Each of us has a responsibility today to be here for our grandchildren. And my little Sophie says to me, Grandma, what are you doing about the world's problems? And she's 8 years old. How come they're so smart? Because they have TV, they have iPhones, and they have enlightened parents. And you are the enlightened people here today as I look at you. I know most of you. And I'm just so honored to ask you, table captains, I'm going to ask you to hand out your blue envelopes. This is the part of the game that we all have to get a pencil for. We have to have a blue envelope. And pretty soon I'm going to ask you, in our world, if you can't volunteer to do something special, as Jerry Brown did at our recent conference called Youth in Peril. And we looked at the problems our youth are facing. And we looked at the solutions. And in about 8 hours, we came up with a charter for youth. Now today, this is about the future of our planet, the future of our youth. And together, we can embrace what we know as we join hands to reach the goal of, listen to this, guys, $250,000. Now, don't panic. You don't have to do it all today, because you're going to have this beautiful form that will allow you to have a little more opportunity to spread it out in the next few years. All right, as soon as everybody has an envelope, I'll start you, but you have to hit your pencil first. I used to be a school teacher, And I would always say, pencils up. So as soon as you all have your pencils, I'm gonna ask you to hold your pencils up. You know, the acoustics are pretty bad in here. So just start giving us money. If you can't hear me, it doesn't matter. You've got the form in front of you. Okay, the World Business Academy Campaign for Safe Energy Luncheon. As Rinaldo said, we don't ask you for money very often, but when we do, we're very, very serious. So, pencils up? No? Where's your pencils? Sounds ridiculous, but you should all have a pencil. If you don't have a pencil, go in your wallet or go in your purse and get a pen. Okay. I thought y'all had pencils. Pens! You're even better. Okay. My children weren't allowed to have pens, so let's go. When you look at your form, let's go to the front first. Go down to the bottom and just put your name. See the word name? Fill in your name. It's really easy. Just put in your name and put in your address. Now, that's just the first part. Then you go back up to the top, and I'm going to give you a minute to put your name and your address, and your city, your state, and your zip. Now, under that it says, check to stay anonymous. If you want to be anonymous, just check that right now. We promise we won't tell anybody who gave us $1 million. We'll just keep it to ourselves. When you are done with that, go up to the top. It says Campaign for Safe Energy Luncheon. That's the first page. I would like to become a founding member of the World Business Academy. And I'm looking right there at some of you who are going to check off the first one. $12,000 a year for 3 years or 5 years. I almost felt like giving you an extra dessert if you checked it off. That's a project sponsor. We'll even take you on a boat ride. Next is the member that we appreciate because you're going to give us $6,000 a year. For how many years? If that's not enough, 3 or 5, you may put 6 in another box. But if you do that, just think what we can do with that money. I'm seeing some people write those names. Thank you. The next one is member for $3,000 a year for 3 years or 5 years. Last year, I'm sure he won't mind if I tell you this. Dr. Jose was at my table, and he said to me, I never gave anybody any money before. Now, don't tell him I told you this, but today I was so convinced that my dollars were going to be put to good use, I filled out the form. I'm hoping you'll do the same. Supporting member, I think we've talked about $1,000 a year for 3 years or 5 years. And last but not least, this is the one I always check, because I'm president of the United Nations Association, and we don't get a salary, so I always check off associate member, $300 a year for 3 years. That's less than $20 a month. That's just 2 lattes a month. No, 2 lattes a day. Anyway, to make a long story short, when my granddaughter Sophie says to me, Grandma, what are you doing? I said, sweetheart, I'm working on safe energy. And she says, well, good for you. She's only 8, they're twins. And Bridget always says, now, Grandma, when you come to see us, show us how we're supposed to have safe energy. And I show them a little film, and they start to get it. So let's talk about other ways that we can contribute. I contribute by being president of the United Nations Association. I contribute by helping Jerry and Rinaldo and his group of Mats, helping us make the world safer. I would like to contribute in other ways. Let's suppose you have a Mercedes that you say, I just don't know what to do with it. Well, put it down, and we'll auction it off at the next luncheon, and I'm going to sit in the front seat with you. If you have a boat that you said, I'll take people around Santa Barbara for $50 a piece, put that down. How are you going to contribute? Now, if you want to contribute $2 million, you can also put that down. For how many years? One-time gift. I'm seeing some pencils go. And then last but not least, contact me about paying my pledge with stock. This is a real good time to do that. I have friends that are putting their stock away and saying, that's the end of it for me. I'm taking my deductions this year and I'm gonna go sailing. So if you wanna do that and you wanna give us all your stock so you don't have to worry, don't worry, we'll take care of it. And last but not least, I have other thoughts to share. This is really important. The Youth in Peril conference that we did, we had 12 small groups. What we found was the most exciting part of the conference was hearing the opinions of each person who was present. Your voice counts. You don't have to be Deepak Chopra to talk, but we will listen to you. If you have an idea of how the World Business Academy can make this world better, you have an idea for people who would like to be involved, Rinaldo, Jerry are here, Matt is here, and Matt's wonderful to talk to. Okay, now let's suppose you want to make your payment today because you don't like to be billed. Well, you just make your payment to the World Business Academy and put the date and just hand it in, and I'll even collect it personally. If you want to put it on a Visa, MasterCard, American Express, that's also available. But remember, you have to give us your name. It's really important. So if you haven't put your name down, please do so. Now, if you turn your card over, for current members, that would be me, my annual payment pledge is enclosed. You can just hand it to us. You can check how many years you want to make a multiple year pledge. You can increase my financial commitment, or I have already sent in a pledge this year. This down at the bottom, it says, thank you for your support. And I do thank each of you for being here today. We're all busy. I remember David Tiedemann saying, today I'm going to ask you to change your mind. If you didn't already pledge, I'm going to ask you to change your mind. Go back to the front. Give it another try. What can you feasibly do to make this world work better? So Jerry doesn't have to come around and say, Barbara, do you have 10 cents? I have to go up to and close Diablo. Okay, I am ready. If you are ready, Judy, are you coming back up? Or are we just going to sing God Bless America? Okay, I'm going to look at the program because I think we're almost done. Can you believe it? Anybody that keeps their word and lets you go home on time is worth their salt. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
I just wanted to thank Barbara for being the wonderful woman that she is. This is the second year she's done this. Thank you so much. If everyone would hand their envelope to their table captain, they'll put it back in the envelope. Jerry just showed it over here. And we wish you all a wonderful day. Please stay if you wish and chat. Otherwise, we'll see you this time next year. Thank you.